Everybody, welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World, and a very happy Tuesday from everybody here at Prime Sports World. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point Huffman, and on today's episode of the Prime, we're going to be breaking down week number 2 of the UFL and give you our preview for week number 3 as we continue to be the number 1 home for all things UFL. So if you want to join me down in the comment section, let me know what you think of the UFL so far. I appreciate all of those comments, and I will read them live on the air. Again, I'm David Huffman, and please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast if you enjoy what we're doing here at Prime Sports World. Including tomorrow's episode, we're going to swing back into the NFL, talk about those new rules that are in place. Thank you to my Aunt Judy for checking out the podcast and being a consistent watcher. I very much appreciate it. Also, shout out to a friend, Emma, who was with me at WrestleMania 40. My buddy threw a party, but she says she watches the Prime Sports World content on a fairly regular basis. I really do appreciate just checking us out and keep watching, because thank you very much, because we enjoy the viewership, and we're going to continue to give you guys good content as long as you guys continue to tune into the shows. So let's get right into week number 2. Let's not waste any time. And this was the week of barn burners, and we had really close matches across the entire weekend, starting with Saturday afternoon, where you had the San Antonio Brahmas, and it's been 2 weeks, and nobody knows what a Brahmas is, beating the Memphis Showboats 20-19, and San Antonio did not score a single point. I think they had like 10 yards of total offense in the first half of this game, but they didn't score a point in the first 3 quarters in this game. They go on to put up 20 points in the fourth quarter, including converting that 4th and 12 in order to drive the ball down the field and score the game-winning touchdown with about 3 seconds left on the clock. They beat the Memphis Showboats. They move to 1-1, I do believe is their record now. Don't quote me on that. I'll just check that real quick. Give me a second here. So they're 2-0. They're one of the 2 undefeated teams, and so far they're the best team in the XFL conference. Looking at some stats from this game, Chase Garbers struggled mightily in the first half, but really turned it on when it mattered the most. 29 of 40 for 287 yards, 3 touchdowns, and of course that 1 interception. He was also this team's leading rusher, as they really struggled to move the football on the ground, only really averaging 3.6 yards per carry, but only having 36 total yards on the ground. Through Cody Lattimore, former Denver Bronco, I believe scored the game-winning touchdown, 8 catches for 91 yards and a touchdown. He was the best player on the San Antonio Brahmas, at least on that side of the football. Chase Cookis also played fairly well for the Memphis Showboats, just didn't play well enough to win this game. 17 of 31, 194 yards and a touchdown. He was also their leading rusher for the Memphis Showboats, 9 for 58. As they had a total of 112 yards rushing in this game, and Davis 6 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown for the Memphis Showboats. But the big thing that really kind of kept San Antonio in this game is they did not give up touchdowns. When Memphis Showboats got into the red zone, they left with field goals. 4 of their 5 possessions, 4 of their 5 scores were in the field goal variety. They did have a touchdown early in this game, but they were never able to punch it into the end zone, which basically kept the Brahmas in this game. If they give up even 1 more touchdown, this game may have been out of reach, and there may have been no opportunity for the San Antonio Brahmas to come back in this game. Just another quick little mini shout out here for a special teams player for the San Antonio Brahmas as we go into, sorry, hold on. I may have the wrong game. No, never mind. He's not in the Brahmas. I got to look that up now. One second. Yeah, so he was on the San Antonio Brahmas. So the YouTuber Destroying fractured his neck on a tackle on a special teams play. He's the UFL kicker, not really used a whole lot, but yeah, he basically suffered a fractured neck making a tackle in that game. So hopefully he has a speedy recovery. The guy doesn't even really need to play in the UFL if he doesn't necessarily want to. But the fact that he goes out there and plays football for the San Antonio Brahmas is really kudos to him. But yeah, he fractured his neck. He will not be playing another game in the UFL, at least not this season. So hopefully he makes a speedy recovery. I hate to see a guy get hurt. To the second game, we got the Arlington Renegades, the former champion of the XFL last year, going into St. Louis and taking on them Battlehawks with that home field advantage, and they end up winning this game 24-27. Renegades actually put themselves in position to win this game, but Battlehawks went down the field, scored the game-winning touchdown. Actually, I think this game was tied, and then the Battlehawks scored a game-winning field goal to basically kick off and walk off on overtime. Luis Perez, 21-29, 233 yards and a touchdown. Smith was their leading rusher, 9 for 23 and a touchdown. This team also only averaged 3.4 yards per carry. And then Peyton was the leading receiver there, 5 for 83. But Canella had the lone receiving touchdown for the Arlington Renegades. But also he did like five touchdown celebrations in that one touchdown. He put it through his legs, I think, and then he did he just did a bunch of stuff when he scored that touchdown. So kudos to him on that. To the St. Louis Battlehawks side, AJ McCarron was extremely efficient in this game, 19-29, 248 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Durant became the leading rusher actually in the UFL with the big impressive game here, 14 for 104 yards and a touchdown. The Battlehawks as a unit averaged 6.1 yards per carry in this game, so that's big time. And then Shepard was the leading receiver, and Aitman had 4 catches for 114 yards and 2 touchdowns to lead the St. Louis Battlehawks as they win this game. So the St. Louis scored the last two field goals in this game. So they were down 21-24 in the third quarter. In the fourth quarter, they put in a field goal to tie the game at 24-24. And then at the horn, they kicked the field goal to win the game 27-24 as they go on to win this game. And they're now 1-1 after falling in week number 1. They have that incredible crowd advantage over every other team in the XFL or the UFL. They just have more players in the stands than most of these other teams. It's going to be a really difficult. It's just going to be difficult to overcome that, I think, for a lot of these teams. To the Sunday afternoon, and the Birmingham Stallions continue to roll as they win this game 20-13. This was almost a wire-to-wire victory for the Birmingham Stallions because they got up 9-0. And then at one point they scored 8 points on a touchdown, put them up 17-7. That was good enough for them to coast through the rest of the game. That actually score came in the second quarter. They did add a field goal in the third to make the score 20-10. Michigan came back with another field goal, 13-20. Also, their field goal kicker, Jake Bates for the Michigan Panthers. He's the first kicker in any pro scenario since Brett Maher did it to have back-to-back weeks with a 60-plus yard field goal in back-to-back weeks. He also kicked that 62-yarder at the horn at the very end of the second quarter as they just wasn't good enough to win the game. Some of the stats here, the Birmingham Stallions are continuing with this 2-quarterback approach, except for AJ Martinez was much more effective through the air than Matt Corral was in this particular game and this week at least. With Adrian Martinez going 8 for 15, 88 yards, Matt Corral having 5 for 12, 53 yards and a touchdown pick. Pearson had the lone touchdown for the Stallions as they had a 4.9 yards per carry. Adrian Martinez was their leading rusher with 8 for 65. EJ Perry on the other side for the Michigan Panthers, 20 of 33, 203 yards, a touchdown, and of course that one interception. He was also the leading rusher for the Michigan Panthers, 4 for 25. Quinn, leading receiver for the Michigan Panthers, 5 for 27, with Sims closing the one touchdown for this Michigan Panther roster, and no receiving touchdowns for the Birmingham Stallions as their defense was super elite in this game, only allowing 205 yards, 47 of that on the ground, only allowing 13 first downs, only allowing 6 of 15 on third down. So this is a team that just they dominated time possession with nearly 38 minutes of time possession, only 22 for the Michigan Panthers. And they had 2 turnovers as well. And they got Michigan Panthers got 6 points off of those 2 turnovers for the Michigan Panthers. Birmingham continues to roll. They're USFL champion last year. They lose their quarterback, and now they come back and they have this 2-headed approach and they continue to win games. You just can't take anything away from them right now. It's just excellent coaching there for the Birmingham Stallions. And then to the final game, the nightcap of the weekend, the Houston Roughnecks fall. I think they're the only team now that doesn't have at least one victory. That's not true. Arlington doesn't have a victory either. But they lose to the DC Defenders. Jordan Tiamo bounced back pretty nicely in this game after what was a rough week one. These teams were fairly evenly matched, 286 yards between the Roughnecks and 285 for the DC Defenders. And the Beer Snake came back, and we love the Beer Snake here at Prime Sports World. But yeah, DC Defenders Roughnecks 18-23. Jordan Tiamo 16-32, 212 yards and 2 touchdowns and that 1 interception. You're looking for that completion percentage to be a lot higher for Jordan Tiamo. This is a guy that won the XFL MVP last season. He can for sure do better than this. Jordan Garatano got injured during this game and never returned. Reed Sinnott came in and played pretty well, but as TJ likes to point out, he was on this show right now, there isn't a whole lot of backup quarterback to film on your backup quarterback, especially if you're playing in the XFL or the UFL. Probably not a lot of film footage on Reed Sinnott. 19 of 30 though, 222 yards and a touchdown. Played pretty well in this game actually for the Roughnecks, just not good enough to win. Pledger 4 for carries for 47 yards. Leading rusher Hall, leading receiver 6 for 44, and Kism 3 for 57 and a touchdown for the Roughnecks. On the other side, QT was the leading receiver for the DC Defenders, former Houston Texan, 3 for 40, and Moore McKinney actually had Scott had a receiving touchdown as well. Both those guys punched in on the ground. And then Haggins, 11 for 29 and a touchdown as the DC Defenders go on to win this game. And they get out the schneid as they finally get their first win at the hands of the Houston Roughnecks. From there, let's talk about week number 3. And we got a rematch. I believe this was a rematch of the XFL championship match last year with the DC Defenders going into Arlington and taking on the Renegades. I think that game last year happened at a neutral site, but also, do not quote me on that because I honestly do not remember. So yeah, if that's inaccurate, please just let me know down in the comment section. I would appreciate any feedback that I can get here on these UFL shows as I try to navigate running them kind of solo for a majority of them. With that being said, I think the DC Defenders get a little bit of revenge here against the Arlington Renegades. Arlington hasn't looked particularly good in any of the games that they played so far this year. I know they look better in the most recent week, but I just don't think that they're any match for the DC Defenders, who should be the best team in the UFL. We'll see how that ends up shaking out. To the next one, the Showboats coming off a devastating loss at the hands of the San Antonio Brahmas, going into Birmingham and taking on the Stallions. I think the Stallions are going to win this game. I think they might be the most talented team, at least in their division for sure, in the USFL division. I think the Stallions to win that game. And then we got the Roughnecks and the Panthers. Both of these teams, I believe, the Roughnecks are trying to get their first win. Panthers are trying to get bounced back after getting beat by the Birmingham Stallions this most recent weekend. I will take the Michigan Panthers. I think I've just seen more out of them than I have out of the Roughnecks. I'm also not sure what the quarterback situation is going to be for the Houston Roughnecks as Garatano got injured, and Reed Sinnott may or may not be the starting quarterback for the Roughnecks as we move through week number 3. And then the nightcap of the weekend, we got the St. Louis Battlehawks going into San Antonio, taking on the Brahmas. Brahmas, I think, are still undefeated, still have not lost a game so far this season. Let me double check that real quick. Yeah, San Antonio Brahmas, along with the Birmingham Stallions, the lone undefeated, 2 teams undefeated in the UFL. But I will take the Battlehawks. I think that they're the more talented team. I just think that the quarterback play for the Battlehawks will be far superior to the quarterback play of the Brahmas. And outside of that final quarter for the San Antonio Brahmas, at least in week number 2, that was almost an unwatchable product. It wasn't until the 4th quarter that they basically turned it on. We're like, oh, hey, let's try to win the game. So I will take the Battlehawks. I think that they're going to win that game. You can take those bets to the bank. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us here at Prime Sports World, and thank you very much for checking us out here on our UFL season week as we continue to ride through the UFL season. This is our week 2, week 3 preview. Thank you very much for joining us. Please leave a like and subscribe on the podcast. I put a lot of work into this stuff, and so I'd appreciate a little bit of feedback on how I can improve the show, or what are you guys liking, what you guys are not liking, as we try to be your number one home for all things UFL. Again, I am David Huppin. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, and we'll be back here tomorrow, so we get back into the National Football League. And what we do here at the Prime, that's right, we're bringing the heat. Y'all have a good night. Stay safe out there. Peace out.